So Mehfil is a word that comes from, it stems in different languages actually, Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi, and it means to gather on or gathering for the purpose of entertaining or learning. So when 2 years ago I was starting this community, my grandmother was visiting from Pakistan, and I floated this idea to her, and we were just ideating on what the name should be. And Mehfil was one of the options, and she thought it was very fitting. So the way I had explained Method to her is like, okay, I want to like host people, and people are going to gather with just the theme of connecting through their roots, learning more about their heritage, and just like foster community and just have a safe, inclusive environment to be in. She's like, yeah, what about Methil? And you know what? Like when your mother was younger, I used to actually host Methils in my house. And Mehfils in the South Asian community have a very like visual, and I'll try to explain what it is, like component to them. They look a certain way. They're essentially gatherings, intimate gatherings where people host qawwali. Qawwali is a Sufi art form of singing and poetry, and basically my grandmother used to host those qawwali nights. Please Google it and you'll know exactly what I mean. And in her home, and she opened her home to the community. And I, of course, didn't see it. This happened when my mom was younger, but as soon as she shared that, I was like, that's it. We're gonna name it Methil and pay homage to my nanny and my grandmother.
So, again, thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me. I found you on TikTok. I didn't search you out. You popped up on my For You page, and
I'd love to hear that.
yep, you were sharing just really interesting content about the South Asian diaspora and like the history and all of that. And I just thought that was so interesting. And so when I started doing this series and like making a list of like who would I like to reach out to,
Mhm.
you popped up in my mind because one, I think the people who are doing things and doing like telling stories in really interesting ways are like so interesting. But then also when I found out about the community that you're building, I was like,
Mm.
oh, this is really, really interesting because I think we're at a time where people are really doubling down on their identity and finding pride
Mhm.
in it and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm so excited to meet you.
Likewise, oh my gosh, what you're doing is super cool as well. And when I saw what you were doing, I was like, happy to chat with Kashara and learn more about what she's doing. And thank you for, sort of summing me up in a very kind and nice way. I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Um, well, I guess to get started, like background information, where are you
Hmm.
based? And, what was your life like growing up? And, what are you doing
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a loaded question, and
Yeah.
I am currently based in Toronto. I was raised in Toronto. I moved here very young with my parents, so did not choose Toronto to be a place of residence, but I immigrated here with my parents from Pakistan. That's where I was born. And yeah, been here in Toronto. That's where my career, my life is based. And that's where just sort of all my side quests and projects that you mentioned so eloquently exist and reside. But the algorithm has amazing reach, so it reaches wonderful people like yourselves as well. Like, where are you based? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, so I am based in Alabama, like right on the Gulf Coast. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
nowhere near
awesome.
Toronto.
Absolutely not. And yet we're chatting. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, me too. You know, for all the things that social media gets, dinged for, things
Mhm.
like this of being able to just like meet people from other parts of the world and stuff like that is really a positive for sure.
Absolutely. And you mentioned this earlier, but we are living in a very interesting time where people are just getting more rooted in their identities and just figuring out where they come from, and just their roots, what they are, how they define them, and how sort of they want to affiliate with them going forward. And I love to talk a little bit about that because I feel like that's rooted in my story, my existence, but also the community that I'm building. And I can't talk about either of the two without talking about both because they're so connected, like everything in life is. So um, going back to just me residing here in Toronto. So moved here very young, and grew up here, went to school here. My career is based here. And my relationship with my roots and my culture just varied during that journey. And I'm sure you'd be able to relate to that as well. That's many of our stories here in the diaspora. And sometimes I was super close to my parents' culture. It pulled me. Sometimes I ran away from it. And I distinctively say my parents' culture, like despite me being born there, my memories here in Canada outweigh my memories in Pakistan. So I very much, this is home for me. So throughout my life, I've been trying to reconnect and just figure out what, my identity as a South Asian woman is within the diaspora. If I could sort of elaborate, like if our identities were a spectrum, we sort of move between the different multicultural identities that we may have throughout our lives. So for me, paint that line. South Asian as a broader identity. Sometimes I was too South Asian for some spaces, sometimes not South Asian enough. And I just realized that somewhere along that spectrum or in the middle is where my reality was. And that's how Mehfil came about in 2024. I was seeking out spaces that were safe and relevant, and really spoke to people that were really on that journey. And when the Mehfil journey started, mine did as well, as a creative and as a host, as a designer, as a photographer, as a storyteller. And since 2024, it's just been projects after projects of hosting events that spoke to community, um, creating workshops, getting involved with just like other projects that people are doing within the Toronto, and even the larger hemisphere. And most recently, and because you found me through one of my TikTok reels, I've been really leaning into what is my newer craft, which is storytelling. It's my way of just really learning about my own roots in a way that I like, researching it, and really just presenting my thoughts to the world about it. It started off after a year of running Mehfil, doing many events, back to back, and I just wanted this community to also learn about the cultural roots that it was linked to, and educational content just made sense, and I just evolved into that, and it's something that I happen to be enjoying very much. It's a lot of fun, it's a lot of work, but I love the art of storytelling, so that's how everything connects. Hopefully I've done a good job explaining.
Yeah, no, you've done a great job. I think I have a few thoughts, but I'll say my most
Yeah.
like immediate thought is what I love so much about the videos and like the storytelling is that you share it in such a way that I, as someone who is not part of the community, if like am able to easily digest it and want more. And I would
Mm,
imagine that people who are part of the community, it may be, I feel like when you talk about the spectrum, I could imagine that it could be something that people can
mhm,
see themselves in on whatever end of
mhm,
the spectrum or throughout it as well.
mhm.
Because I immediately was like, oh, is she on YouTube? Like, this is really interesting. Um,
Maybe one day, maybe one day, but
yeah, at least share the short, at
I
least share them as shorts on YouTube, I think would be a really kind of smart idea.
will think about
Yeah.
that for sure.
Yeah. Um, I'd be curious to know what how I mean, I know that you have Mefil and that was a part of
Hmm.
you being able to figure out, your set yourself, your setting on the
Hmm.
spectrum, but outside of that, what was that
Hmm.
like to get to a place where you can settle? You don't feel like you have to be here or have to be there or balance or at all. You can just be who you are and be okay with that.
Honestly, a great question. It's rooted in just being authentic to yourself, despite like which stage of life you're in. Like, have I found the perfect balance of where I fall between the different cultural identities I sort of dabble in? Absolutely not. It's always a work in progress. It's always learning. It's always like practicing, like showing up and like, learning about different concepts, showing up in different spaces and then, working on that balance. I will say that, am I more comfortable with it? that I was before at different points in my life? Absolutely. And that really was a sort of a cascading effect that really resulted in the community and just all these projects that I dabble in because they all happen in my free time. As much as I would love to say like I do this full time, I wanted to make my reality, but it isn't now as of this moment. And I think honestly, it's just a gut feeling of being one day you're like better, more rooted than the next. And it's a continual process that you work on. And it's very important for people who live in the diaspora and necessarily like not in countries where their parents are from or where they were born, like myself, to chase that actively. And it's for me, it's just been an active thought of just being chasing in whatever forms it may be. And in that, I've just felt a bit more comfortable in the balance that I've struck. And I just continue to work on it.
Yeah. When you talk about the too Asian, not enough, did you feel
Hmm.
any pressure from, like, where was that pressure coming from? Like, did you feel pressure from your parents to hold on and really tie
Hmm.
yourself to your culture, or were they more okay with you kind of coming into your own? Um,
Yeah, yeah. Bunch of things. So many immigrants or children of immigrants will relate to this. Part of it came from, being pressurized by parents in our childhood to want to hold on in their specific ways, but it was very biased in how they wanted it to look, right? They weren't necessarily aware of what our reality was in schools and how we were very much trying to assimilate and rightfully so, right? And conform and rightfully so. We're trying to blend in and find our identity, but just them forcing in their own way often the result is the kid runs away from it. That's what I did.
yeah.
So part of it was that, the push and pull from parents growing up, then the push and pull as a young adult of like wanting to learn about where I come from, um, and what my reality is, what my grandparents were like, what their reality was, and just chasing that a little bit. And then it also came from, just having different lived experiences and different life stages that I went through of like, working in a corporate environment that can look a certain way where you don't see people that look like you, be represented, and suddenly you're the only one or one of the very few, and then you are very aware of how different you are. And then that is again a catalyst of like, okay, well, if I am so unique, then let me look into where I come from. And for me, and I actually don't mind sharing personally either, like being here in Toronto, like my upbringing was very diasporic, as much as my parents really tried to instill Pakistani roots, the Islamic, the religion, I would say as well. Um, Growing up in many phases of my life, I wasn't aware of my brownness in certain stages where like I just wasn't aware of it because everything and everyone around me was so multicultural. And I think that's a really cool thing about Toronto, where there's a little bit of everybody, and to an extent that like your friend base is just so diverse and you're just celebrated for who you are, and your rooted reality in the diaspora. But I think for my journey really came from like I just wanted to learn a bit more about where I came from. And another catalyst was that I married somebody who wasn't from my culture. And that sort of accelerated the journey as well, where all of a sudden I had someone willingly wanting to learn more about where I come from and what being a person, a South Asian person from Pakistan is like, and somebody keen to learn about it. And then we sort of went on a journey to learn about it together. And it came together that way. When I look back, it's very interesting how it all happened. Um, but yeah, came full circle in a weird, weird way.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. As you were talking, I was like, I kind of wish my childhood would have been like that upbringing. Like
Mm,
the Deep South has its own, like a very, it's a lot
absolutely.
of history, a lot there. And
Yeah.
so, I completely understood what you meant about being too much or not enough and having to try to figure out how
Hmm.
to toe
Hmm.
that line as someone who's Black. living in the deep South. But
Hmm.
I felt like here, I mean, thankfully my high school was pretty diverse, but here culturally, I feel like you have to actively kind of seek that out. It's not something where the
Hmm.
community is just naturally, you're in
Hmm.
that environment like that. Like you kind of have to seek it out. So when
Hmm.
I graduated high school, I like immediately left to like the biggest city that I could find in my state. And then after that, I
Hmm.
went off to like New York and then, to
Yeah.
Atlanta and stuff. So the fact that you had that
Mm-hmm.
upbringing to where there's points in your life where you did not realize your brownness, I think is very interesting because I've always been very aware of my blackness.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Hey, it came and went in phases, I will say that,
Yeah.
and definitely came and went in phases, and it could have been the spaces that I was a part of.
Yeah.
And to the detriment of those spaces, at some point I grew out those spaces and then was seeking spaces that would speak more to my brownness a little bit so I could learn a little bit more about it. And then went off to starting this whole community 2 years ago. So um, I think definitely within Toronto and Ontario, it's a unique climate to be in. It's very different. I think there's very few cities akin to what Toronto is, and definitely grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, tell me more about Mehfil. I've looked all through the website
Yes.
and explored it, but for those who wouldn't know about it, like
Oh,
share.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I'll start off by explaining what Mehfil means. So Mehfil is a word that comes from, it stems in different languages actually, Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi, and it means to gather on or gathering for the purpose of entertaining or learning. So when 2 years ago I was starting this community, my grandmother was visiting from Pakistan, and I floated this idea to her, and we were just ideating on what the name should be. And Mehfil was one of the options, and she thought it was very fitting. So the way I had explained Mehfil to her is like, okay, I want to like host people, and people are gonna gather with just the theme of connecting through their roots, learning more about their heritage, and just like foster community and just have a safe, inclusive environment to be in. She's like, yeah, what about Mehfil? And you know what? Like when your mother was younger, I used to actually host mehfils in my house. And mehfils in the South Asian community have a very like visual, and I'll try to explain what it is, like component to them. They look a certain way. They're essentially gatherings, intimate gatherings where people host qawwali. Qawwali is a Sufi art form of singing and poetry, and basically my grandmother used to host those qawwali nights. Please Google it and you'll know exactly what I mean. And in her home, and she opened her home to the community. And I, of course, didn't see it. This happened when my mom was younger, but as soon as she shared that, I was like, that's it. We're gonna name it Mehfil and pay homage to my nanny and my grandmother. And that's what we named Mehfil. And it really started off as me scratching the itch of curating all these ideas I had over the course of my life. And I really went about hosting different events from like very aesthetic tea parties, which were like intimate gatherings where people would come in a very cute environment to discuss just like culture, what it's like to balance it, their identity, different issues that they're having. So it was an event series that we had called Stories Over Chai way back then. Then we leaned into workshops and like intentional programming that's has culture at its core, and people come together to explore different art forms, things like that, dinner parties from here and there. So yeah, various events. We've done like over 20 plus events now. The first year running Mehfil, I ran like 12 plus events. I absolutely burned myself out, but I learned a lot, and I learned that I enjoy hosting, and just opening up spaces for people to be themselves unapologetically. It's just you have to be there. It's Mehfil draws a wonderful crowd, and it's just been amazing to be at like the center of it all and really observe the beauty around me. So it's been beautiful. And yeah, we start off as like an events-based community, then really branched off into building a newsletter, which is growing really well as well. Super grateful for that. And a project there was opening up to the community for submissions, and people share their own just like stories and reflections. And the idea was I was building physical spaces through Mehfil, but I couldn't be hosting events every month. You burn out very easily. And I wanted to then branch out and host like a digital space, and our newsletter really became that. And yeah, people submit their stories, and it's just this wonderful, like wholesome piece of the internet. And then I started branching out, doing a bit more storytelling content, and it all just connects into one wheelhouse that is beautifully named Mehfil. And that's what Mehfil is. It's a safe space for all members of the South Asian diaspora and allies who want to learn more and just participate in the beautiful culture that it is. And then I just hope me doing this just helps people connect with just their roots. It's so important, um, and just it just starts rolling from there. And I hope it just benefits people, and that's essentially what it is.
Yeah. I love that you're kind of continuing this tradition that already existed within your line that you didn't even know about. I think that's so beautiful.
I absolutely had no idea. And I literally went to my mom, I was like, Mom, like, what? You're like, how would you not even tell me that? And it was also kind of like a sign when I look back at it, right? Is like why I put so much into this is it's a tribute to, what the women in my family already did. And I get to do it in a different way, in a different space on the different side of the planet. And I love growing it with that intention in mind. I actually have my grandmother's photo right there, if you can see, it's so tiny
Oh, I
in my
do.
office. It's just there. Um, um, she's inspired me so much, and I wouldn't be honestly who I am without the sacrifices of the women that have shaped me. And she's one of them.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. I'm curious to know, what was it like it's one thing to have an idea, to confirm that you
Mm,
want to do the thing, to plan it
yeah.
out, map it all out, but to actually put yourself out there in a way to where it's almost like sending out like a little call, wondering if anyone's going to answer back. Did you have that struggle or anything like that? And how did you navigate that besides just saying, I'm going to do it anyway?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked. So I needed a push to do this. And um, I've had, I'm an ideas machine. I have many ideas, but it took some time to build that confidence and a lot of people who support me to push me to start this catalyst of like taking the idea and bringing it into reality and really actioning it. So I've had many cool ideas in my life, but I never did anything about them. And then I would see other people do that, and I was like, "Oh my God, no!" So when I had this idea, and I shared it with my sister, and huge credit goes to my sister and my husband because they were the first ones to hear this idea. And they're like, and I asked them, I was like, guys, what do you think? Will this, are people even looking for this? And back then in Toronto and anywhere really, like there weren't spaces like this. We were really at like the forefront of it. I would see now I see more popping up, and it's really beautiful to see. I needed a push. I looked for that validation in my beautiful sister and my amazing husband, and they were like, like, we know you. If you don't do this, you're going to be really hard on yourself if you see someone else do it before you. And they both said this to me, and they both were like, you know what? It was actually early January that year when I told them, and this was brewing in my head for a few months. And they were like, we're going to pick a date. It's going to be January 27th, 2024. That's going to be your first event. Make it happen. Whether people show up or not, live your best dream, curate a beautiful event you want. We'll help, and let's see who shows up. So literally January 2024, I started our Instagram. Yeah, January 2024 was the first event. And yeah, people showed up. It sold out. And from there, I got that sort of the routine down of, hey, I have an idea. let me just like bring all of them to reality. And under this umbrella of Mehfil and community building, it just became a routine, one after the other. And now I'm just so used to doing that. Sometimes I need to recalibrate. Armish, there's only so much enough time, like so much time. Let's prioritize. And I wouldn't be, Mehfil wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for the people backing me up, which is my family. They really, really pushed me, and here we are. So we're chatting. So that's a great outcome.
Yeah, no, they are so real for being your accountability partners.
Yep, yep,
I think that
absolutely.
there are so many people. I think having that accountability, I think very few people have it internally where they can be accountable to themselves. My husband, he can do that. Me, I feel like I can at times, but if it's something that's really big or feels really big to me, I feel like I need someone to like bounce back and forth off of or like to encourage me,
Mhm,
like,
mhm,
let's map out what's the best case scenario, what's the worst case scenario, and then like how to mitigate and all of that stuff. So the fact that you had two people who are very close to
mhm.
you, who you very much trust to be like, we're going to do this. Here's, I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, super grateful to have that. And honestly, like back then I didn't have the confidence of me being able to like pull it off. It was a lot of unknowns, things I hadn't tried, and now I think back and I'm like, I have grown so much from it because, Mefl started as an event-based community. It has grown to so much more. I have branched off to so many other projects that fit under the Mefl umbrella and outside. And I do not recognize who I am now. I'm so different. That's how much I've grown. And it's super it's honestly all credit goes out to them and having those accountability partners. They're the real ones.
Yeah. What has building this taught you about navigating the unknown or uncertainty or making the decision to move forward in spite of not knowing how things are going to turn out?
You know what? Like, I actually have it as a wallpaper on my phone. I'll read the quote out to you. Um, as you start to walk on, the way appears. It's it's my wallpaper for a reason. I have very big dreams. I'm always chasing the next creative idea. Um, but oftentimes you just don't know where it's going. And I think there's something to be said to putting like one foot in front of the other and things shake out. And I think for me, that's been the guiding light for the past couple of years. I just need a constant reminder.
Mm,
Because this is a lot of work. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that really go into this. It's a passion project. It consumes every inch of my free time and even more. And what the guiding light has been is like putting one foot in front of the other. And like honestly, like why I'm doing this as well has been really big as well. Like I've been doing this for the younger Armish who was looking for these spaces or these stories being told by someone that kind of looked like her, and was very much in the middle of it all, and I needed to hear it at the right moment. I think those would be the two things of like, eventually things lead to something. That's the hope. And as long as you have that guide, and then you have that reminder of like why you're doing this is super important too, because you can get lost in the day-to-day, the grunt work as well, the disappointments, and there are many, those as well. Is okay, why are we doing this? I think for me, if Mefil could be, or through me, people can learn about their culture a little bit more, um, I think I've done my job. I think that's pretty much it. If I can be the catalyst to somebody reconnecting with who they are, and then therefore they feel a little bit more rooted in their own identity, then honestly, I've done my job. And I think and then they can come to my events. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And I think those two things, and it's taken me a long while to get there. I've genuinely been a guide.
mm. Um, Curious to know, well, actually, my thought is
Mhm.
because it is a lot of work, especially to build something
Yeah.
from the ground up. And I've been thinking about this idea, not even idea, but like about work. And there's like good hard work and then like bad hard work.
Yeah.
And I feel
Hmm.
like when you are building something that has meaning to you, that runs deep, and that you're really, really passionate about, like that's hard
Hmm.
work to make it happen, but you don't feel, I have found, at least for myself, I don't feel like stressed or as stressed about what I'm building. It
Hmm.
doesn't feel like it's like draining. Like I might get burned out because I'm like like extending myself too much. But
Yeah,
it's, you know what I mean? Like there's this, like this for you, to me, for you sounds like that good hard work as opposed to the kind that like
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
draining. And it's a real gift to have something that you can be building and working on that actually does that for you.
I absolutely agree. For actually majority of my life, I actually did not have something like that. Mefil is a year and a half going on 2 years old. So and I actually just started to make storytelling content. So all of this is relatively new. And for the past year and a half of building this community, I learned that I generally enjoy building something from nothing. Like that's been the most fun experience for me. And it really came from just, I all of a sudden had more agency over my time and I just wanted to scratch this itch and it just came about. And I no longer see a reality where I'm not building something. I feel like I won't be being myself, whether it's Mehfil or something else, God knows what. But I no longer see the reality where I only have my career to focus on. I love my career, super passionate about it. Don't really talk about it in Mehfil circles because I only really like to talk about Mehfil and all my creative projects. But I don't see a reality where only that's the focus. Because I just know what it's like to build something from nothing, especially something that I'm passionate about. And I think that's the passion, and you really hit the nail on the head that lets you, borderline burn you out, but not burn you out. You are able to compromise sleep. You are able to, even on weekends when you just want to chillax, watch TV, work on something, or host an event, or do whatever, and you're able to make those sacrifices, and you're able to make this fit your life because it's your soul work, it's your passion. And I think that's the beauty of it, whatever you may be building.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think the other part of it is knowing that like what you're doing is impacting other people, and perhaps
Hmm.
more people than you even realize. Like
Yeah.
what's been the most surprising aspect of this? Because
Gosh.
you go into it thinking,
Yes.
I want to build community and a space for people to be, but there's
Yeah.
always, you know, positive and, consequences that happen that you don't even foresee.
You know what? I have two. One is a year and a half old, one is pretty recent. And I love that the universe has a way of showing us these things to help us keep going when things get hard. Like I'm grateful for that because sometimes I need these validations and these reminders. So first one, I hosted my second ever event in 2024, and it was an idea that was in my head, and I put it out there, and it was essentially making flower garland bracelets. They are a thing for South Asians in many South Asian countries, and basically you use fresh flowers to make bracelets. I was like, I'm gonna host a workshop because I've seen this happen. I've seen people engage in it, and it's just so beautiful, and I'm just gonna host it. So host the event, partner with a local floral shop and literally my sister. And we host the event. It sells out. And I am like completely like mind blown. First of all, that it was literally like no one had done it. And I was just like, well, I was literally just doing this because I hadn't seen it done. It sells out. So that was one. Number two, and actually my helpers told me when the event was done, hey, did you meet this girl? She came from like 5 hours away. I'm like, who is this? I meet a lot of people at these events, and they're like, um, And this is literally my family who are my helpers. They're telling me this after the fact. They're like, oh, she came from like Peterborough, which is like a long ways away from Toronto. And she came all this way and she left early. And the feedback that she gave was like, she'll come again. And I was flabbergasted, Kashara, because I was like, first of all, how did she cure? Like, Mehfil was very early stage at that point. So she heard about it, she came to the event, and she had a fun time. And it absolutely blew my mind that she came all the way from Peterborough, which is a long ways away from Toronto. So that's number one. And I still get goosebumps when I think about it because I think I don't know what her name is. I don't know who she is. And I am so grateful that she took the time out of her day to come to this event that I hosted off of a whim. And she motivated me. She really, truly, truly pushed me to do it more. And that year, I hosted an event every month. No matter what happened, I hosted an event every month. And I grew a lot from it. And then number two, very recently, there was a Kavali event happening here in Toronto. Um, it's a group that has, how do I describe this? Trying to evolve Kavali and really collaborate with local orchestras to really take it to newer generations. Beautiful, you're taking an old art form, bringing it to newer spaces. So the organizers that had reached out to me to do a storytelling reel, and I was like, yes, hell yes, I'll do it. And somehow um, that reel had great reach. Great. That was fun. I am in the lobby of the event and I'm just like, waiting for a few friends. And this girl, she comes up to me and I've never met her before. She's like, are you Armish? I'm like, yeah, hey, nice to meet you. Yes, I'm Armish. She's like, oh, like I've been following you and Mehfil for a while now. I came to Toronto from Chicago. Um, to attend this event because they don't have one in Chicago. And I came here because you told me about it. And I was hoping to run into you here. And I was like, oh, this. I give her a big hug and I was like, oh man, like let's stay in touch. And thank you so much for coming to Toronto for this event. And somehow I was the catalyst. And who am I? I'm just so grateful that people, make themselves known, and it motivates me so much. I just cannot. I'm tearing up a little bit, but those are just few examples that stand out that have really genuinely pushed me and hopefully continue to push me.
What does your family think about this, about what you're building? You talked about, having parents who really, really wanted you to be tied
Mhm,
to culture and identity, and now
mhm.
you're creating a space where people can
Yeah.
do that. So what are
They,
their thoughts and feelings?
what, like they're very proud. They're very happy. Now they caution me. They're like, don't burn yourself out. You're overextending yourself. Parents will be parents. And I have said to my mom, and I'm like, hey, see, like, did not lose the culture. And I think she definitely appreciates it and is proud and does see in ways that what I'm doing is a tribute to her mother, and is grateful for that. And she comes to all my events. So does my dad and my siblings as well. And it's just honestly, it's great. And honestly, my in-laws too. They come from a different culture. They're Guyanese. So for them, this has been a segue of also technically connecting to roots, colonization and all. Like there's a lot there. And they're also super supportive. And it's just nice to see everyone coming together and just, engaging in the beauty of culture.
Yeah. You mentioned how you built this and you think about like little you. Sometimes I think about like with all the work I've done, projects and hobbies and all the things. I do sometimes imagine myself when I was like, I think when I think about myself, I think about myself at like 13 or 14. And I just
Mhm.
remember back then being like, I really want to get out of this small town. Like, will I ever? I wonder what
Yeah.
I'll be like in 15 years, you know? Um, and so, I'm happy to now think that I think if I went back to my 13-year-old self, she'd be like, girl, okay, great. Like it's
Yeah.
exciting. You got out and you did cool things. What do you think your younger self would think if you were able to go back into the past and be like, hey, it's me from the future. Just want to let you know.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know what she would say, but I would hope that she would be proud. I know for a fact she's gonna be like super surprised. She's gonna be like, how the heck are you doing all these things? Like, you were this like nervous kid in high school, like super go-getter, wanted to achieve everything, but just did not have the confidence in who she was. And how the heck did you gain that confidence? She will have a lot of questions because that's who I am and how sort of I've just been for the longest time. And the hope is that, she's proud and that she sees that she feels seen, in the whole journey that it's been, and that she's grateful for the journey as well. I mostly hope that she's proud because I come from I would say such an underdog growing up.
Mm,
Such an underdog growing up. Oh my God. And I've grown a lot and I've had different stages through which I've grown, and I'm grateful for all those journeys and the struggles along with them. But something that my younger self actually did, and I will give her credit because it's continued in the adult me as well. Is like something I've always sought out is like seeking risks that have led to growth opportunities. I did this, I think it might be rooted in being an immigrant with my parents or seeing them take risks that have, resulted in better quality of life, things like that. And growing up, I did that. I, wanted to, I don't know, like, um, take a advanced course because I wanted to challenge myself and stupid stuff like that, growing up. But like that has paid off, career switches, things that made me uncomfortable. Seeking out a partner not in my culture and being the first woman in my family to do it. You know, that was a big thing. Grown a lot from it as well. And I think that just become a routine. And I think the little Armish actually rooted that in me. And that has led to just beautiful things. A lot of uncomfortable things as well. But it has just yielded opportunities and growth, which when you look back at even setbacks, everything is an opportunity. So I just hope she's proud that I'm leaning into who I am, and I hope I can continue to do that going forward.
mm. I love that you touched on risk taking. I call it
Mm,
like calculated risk taking.
mm,
Um, and I think it's so important to be willing to and have the courage to bet on
mhm.
yourself, to be like, I'm not sure exactly how this is going to turn out, but I at least trust myself enough to where if this goes left, I can be able
Yeah.
to handle it and it's still worth me trying. Yeah.
Yeah, and what keeps me rooted? It's I think about this like my parents did not go on this like whirlwind of a journey to uproot their lives away from their mothers, their fathers, their siblings, uh, for me to live a complacent life and not take risks. I always default to that, and I will continue to use that as a guidepost for myself. Um, yeah, because yeah, what a waste it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think the same thing too. I'm like, there's no
Yeah,
way, 400 years of enslavement and Jim
there.
Crow and all of the things just for me to be like, I'm too scared. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
people realize, especially if you are from a people who have been colonized. Like, I don't,
Mm,
there's so much history and we don't even fully know, none of us fully know
no.
the full
Hmm.
depths that people who came before us went through. but all
Hmm.
of the decisions, the small decisions and the big decisions that they had to make to survive to get us here, I'm like, I
Hmm.
can't.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We both come from catastrophic histories.
yeah.
We could paint that line. And I'm actually in an active process of just learning like more about it. And yeah, you look at it from that perspective too. Then every little challenge seems so small. Um, and I think it's a good way to ground yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you do it too.
Yeah, me too. Um, so I want to ask you, what has been, I guess, what has been the most rewarding aspect of building Mehfil, and what are you hoping for it to become as it continues growing?
I think the most rewarding has been just, people finding the space that they were looking for. And I've just gotten that feedback from just people that have come to our spaces, people that have interacted with the projects that we've built. That has been the most rewarding to see. And I think that's the most validation someone like me that's building something for a specific audience can see. That that's just been super great. Future is just continuing to build it. Mefil is self-funded by myself, and I just uh, you know keep it going. It's my job, and that's what I'll continue to do. And honestly, the future of it is that it grows more and the reach grows more for it to find more people so people can resonate more with just the messaging around it, and just connect with their roots even more, feel seen in the journey, because I think there's many people, so they are not like in the diaspora, who are looking to get more rooted in just where they come from. And if they can get that validation by seeing something that I've worked on or through Mehfil, or seeing my own content and storytelling, then I think I would have done my job. And I just hope, I can keep Methville going, and just continuing to build it as a platform. Right now, where it's at, community first, maybe also a media platform in many ways, that I feel like many people are feeling drawn and connected to. So that is the hope. We'll continue to build it as such. We'll continue to host events, although I can only host events in Toronto. Um, and then just see where it goes. I'm challenging myself this year on just, putting out more storytelling content and really challenging myself, and really leaning more into that. And we'll see where it all goes. The hope at the end of the day is that, somebody out there feels seen. That is just the hope always.
Yeah. Well, I think Mehfil is really a testament to timing.
Mm,
Like, I'm I think a lot about that of like if I built what
mm,
I'm building, if this existed 20 years ago, would it have the same
yeah.
impact, you know? Um,
Hmm.
and so I think you leaning into doing it and going after it when you felt it in your gut, like
Hmm.
deeply, I think that's really
Yeah.
inspiring. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think also with the way the current times are right now, like, um, I find people are seeking out spaces of this nature. The world right now is also a very scary place for many reasons. So I think my ethos with Methil is to just build something authentically with my bare hands, that people can feel drawn to. It scares me a lot to see where the world is headed, what that would mean about archiving culture, archiving our stories authentically, all the arts and the crafts out there. That just need to be honored and fostered. Um, but in this new age, it's just scary where all that is going. So, what I can do is continue to build what I'm building as authentically as possible, and hope and if people will find some sort of value, and that through it culture will be remembered and exercised and practiced by people who are mostly not in their motherlands.
Mm.
Because if we don't, culture erodes in time. I wrote a piece about this a week ago, which is going out this weekend, and I hope it crosses your algorithm. Languages are eroding, right? by day, week by week. I think the stat is every week some language goes endangered. That is insanely crazy. Like when a language dies because it is not practiced, so does the culture with it. So does the many
Mhm.
recipes, the arts, the crafts. That is dangerous business. That is stuff that keeps me up at night. Like I cannot. So things like that, like I think you can prevent them by talking about them, by hosting spaces around them. And if even one person gets impacted, that's a catalyst effect you need to make something outlast. Um, so rant over, but I hope that crosses your algorithm.
Yeah. No, I mean, that also keeps me up too, the idea of cultural preservation and like,
Yeah.
and that's in part why I even started this archive, because I think about the number of stories from women, and especially women
Hmm.
from the global majority. Like if you
Hmm.
don't, if they don't exist somewhere, then essentially those stories die with that
Hmm.
person. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I think about that. You could have kept on ranting and I would have been like right there with you.
Well, no, kudos to you for doing this as well, right? Like you're seeking out, super awesome people who have done fun stuff. I was looking through your archive and you're capturing and giving their story justice. And that's part of why I wanted to chat with you. I was like, let's see what she's doing and let's rant about myself, which is the hardest thing to do. I can talk about everything else under the sun, Kashara, but not about myself.
Well,
So
you're doing a great job sharing about yourself. I'm very appreciative. I'm when is your next event? Like what's the next event that's happening?
Yeah, oh my gosh. So next event is hopefully happening later in the spring. It's going to be a workshop of some sort. It's still in ideation. It's just a work in progress. But we're also working on a dinner party that we'll be hosting around the similar time frame as well. So yeah, looking forward to that, and then kind of going from there. We also have like various other projects that are active right now under the Mehfil umbrella. So just a lot of fun stuff happening.
Well, thank you. That was it. That was the interview.
Well, no, thank you. I mean, more than interviews, it was a great chat. Like, thank you so much for connecting.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I feel like every time I do these interviews, like I always leave either thinking about something differently or, pondering on something or feeling like validated or enlightened in some way. So this was a very good conversation.
Oh, no, likewise. I enjoy meeting people who are also just yeah, like building interesting things, and it's nice to be in similar rooms and yeah, like uplifting each other in different ways. So I appreciate that and keep doing what you're doing. It's super awesome, and I'm excited to see what this chat becomes.
Yeah.
And hearing myself talk, which is like the awkward thing ever, but the most awkward thing out there.
Yeah, what's funny is I will, I mean obviously I go back and I listen through and like make, edit
Mm,
and stuff the audio, but usually once I publish it, I can't go back
mhm.
to it for like a few months, so I can be like a bit removed from it. Because just hearing my own voice is I'm like, "Ooh."
I mean, your voice is great.
Oh, well, yours is too, for sure.